Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our main event for UFC Vancouver. In this matchup, we have the former 1FC middleweight and light heavyweight champion and the fourth ranked middleweight contender in the world, the Dutch Knight Reinier de Ridder, taking on short notice opposition Brendan All In Allen and the ninth ranked middleweight in the world. De Ridder is 21-2 as a professional and 5-0 in his last five fights. Currently riding a five-fight win streak in total, four of those being in the UFC. Meanwhile, for Allen, he's 25-7 as a professional, 3-2 in his last five fights. Now, looking at their last five, for De Ridder, he's 4-0 in the UFC. This will be his fifth fight in the company. And not only that, but this will be his fifth fight in less than a year. Now he made his debut back in last November, but in a 165 day span, and this will be his fifth fight in less than a year. Looking at his last four, he submitted Gerald Mearshart last November, then submitted Kevin Holland at UFC 311 in January, then he TKO'd and handed Bo Nickel his first defeat in May, and then most recently, he, in July, fought tooth and nail with Robert Whittaker to win a split decision. Meanwhile, for Allen, he was riding a really good hot streak at one point, riding a 6-fight win streak with names including Andre Muniz, Bruno Silva, and then two of those in his last five. Submission win over Paul Craig, and then the last win on this win streak was a split decision to Chris Curtis, which I know a lot of people thought Allen lost that fight. Then he went on a 2-fight skid, but you'd think of who he lost to. Lost to Nasruddin Imavov last September, and then lost to Fluffy Hernandez this February. He only lost to really the top 5 of the division. Then he got back to his winning ways when he defeated Marvin Vettori at UFC 318 this July. So as I said before, this is short notice for Brendan Allen. It's coming in roughly about 5 to 6 months. It was supposed to be RDR versus Anthony Hernandez, which I was so looking forward to. I was so looking forward to that fight so much. And, once I found out Fluffy was injured and it was Brendan Allen, I was disappointed, I won't lie. But then looking back on it, I'm thinking, this should be a really fun matchup. Both guys are high-level middleweights, and they can do roughly about everything. And they're both finishers of the highest level. Also, while it's a shame that we don't get RDR versus Fluffy, which I will say is a better fight than this, it still doesn't dull my excitement for at least this card overall, nor this fight in general, as this is a good fight. Looking at Reinier de Ridder, boy, it's hard to pinpoint exactly his style because he's so like Dricus du Plessis. Awkward. You look at his technique at first glance and you think, how the fuck is this guy winning his fights? And he just when he keeps winning, you just think to yourself, man, what is he doing that is so effective? Then you really dissect it, right? He has this sort of gumpy style, herky-jerky striking thing where he'll just throw out his jabs, cross from like either odd angles or really odd timing. His feet are close together. And I've seen de Ridder, literally just swing a punch and turn himself the other way. But if there's one aspect of his striking that is super textbook, super clean, and so devastating, it would be his knees to the body. Specifically, his left knee out of southpaw. As de Ridder does fight in southpaw, and his left knee to the body is brutal. He TKO'd Bo Nickel with it. He hurt Whittaker multiple times in their fight. And in general, it's a very beautifully timed knee. He aims it to the body so well, and does the proper like Dutch technique as well. Arms down, kind of like you're a windshield. Just pull and then release the knee at the same time, and it hits to roughly the diaphragm to the breadbasket, and oh my god, it hurts so bad. If you never sparred or struck before, let me tell you from like my personal experience. Getting hit in the breadbasket is one of the worst things in the world, or one of the worst feelings in the world, for sure. But that being said, easily de Ridder's best aspect of his game is his grappling. Very textbook, very lanky submission artist. I mean, he has an inverted triangle in one of his submission wins. And another thing about DeRitter you got to understand is he is huge for middleweight. So when DeRitter was fighting at 1FC, their middleweight division weigh in at 205. So basically, 1FC's middleweights weigh about as much as a UFC light heavyweight. And he was a double champion. So when he fought at light heavyweight, he was 225 pounds. And then at middleweight, he was 205. Cutting down to 185, one, I'm surprised he can make the weight as well as he has throughout his career and not once missed weight. But also, you look at him and he dwarfs most of his opposition. I mean, I rewatched like the Whitaker fight as a part of tape study for this fight, and I had to remind myself how big DeRitter was when I saw him in that octagon with Whitaker and how much he dwarfed him. Now, I know Whitaker isn't the biggest middleweight out there, but by God, the size difference and overall, just like, yeah, the size difference between those two was so crazy to think. I mean, you can watch like the face-offs today of RDR and Allen, and RDR still looks so big. And Allen is no small middleweight either. He's like 6'2". Ooh. Well, and I understand, being 6'4" in this weight class is, makes you pretty tall. Oh, and that is what DeRitter is, 6'4". But man, he's so big. He's bigger than most of these middleweights. I think he's about the only one besides Hamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis that's like the biggest middleweight on the roster. Or at least of the ranked contenders, that's for sure. But back to what I was saying, he uses that size to great effect. I've said this on a few videos before, but when you fight a really tall grappler, it's kind of like watching a spider just dangle or like encompass their prey with those long limbs and just wrap around them. DeRitter does something very similar, that those long frames, he kind of just blankets over his opponents and they struggle to get him off him. I mean, now I know Kevin Holland's not the best defensive wrestler or grappler, especially at middleweight, but just the way DeRitter immediately shot for that single leg and then just rolled Kevin Holland just about however he wanted to. It was scary. Not to mention, you look at when he did take Whitaker down, Whitaker could not get back up. In the second and third round of the Whitaker fight, when RDR did get his takedowns in, mostly off trips in the clinch, you saw Whitaker did not have the ability to get back up. Now, DeRitter is very good at either draping over and getting to side control or full mount, or threatening with a Darce choke, and then his opponents have to, they have to respect the submission game because DeRitter is a very venomous grappler. They have to fight off the choke, and then DeRitter's just able to use that to slide back into full mount. Either way, you're either fighting the choke and giving up a more dominant position to DeRitter, or you're fighting off the position, but he's got you locked up in a submission. It's a no-win situation. Now, that being said, for how good as his grappling is, his wrestling is not that good. Now, granted, Whitaker is one of the best defensive wrestlers in the middleweight division, but even then, some of DeRitter's shots are not the best or not the prettiest either. He usually goes for that single leg, but he doesn't seem to drive his hips forward all the way, nor like pick the leg up and like turn his opponents to the side where you have their leg open, have their leg up. And doesn't just seem to drive the pipe, as wrestlers say, all the way. And usually his opponents are able to get out. Again, he ragdolled Kevin Holland, yes. And honestly, looking at this like 4 wins, it's crazy to think that of all of them, Gerald Mearshard, you could argue was his toughest opponent. It's still crazy to think, but I think it was being off the shelf for as long as DeRitter was, not having fought in a while, and his last fight was at UAE Warriors. So I do think that had a part to play. But now with this activity, he's just been getting better and better and better. And you saw in that Whitaker fight, DeRitter can push a pace for 5 hard rounds and show that not only is he a fun fighter with those finishes he has, but also an exhausting fighter. One of DeRitter's other best attributes is his clinch, and more so how he's very persistent in attacking the body, which I really love to see. You can watch like how he pressed Whitaker, used his right hand to catch the far side wrist, and that left DeRitter's left hand open to just keep digging those short little uppercuts to the body. Now, they're not big motions, but just those little jabs, just boom, boom, boom to the body. these just start slowly just seeping up your energy and just taking what cardio you have remaining. Plus, just having that giant Dutchman and just leaning on you for the better part of 25 minutes is exhausting. Now, looking at Brendan Allen, I would argue he's going to be the much more technical of the two, especially on the feet. Allen is for sure a far technically superior striker than DeRitter. I really don't think there's any argument over that. Now, DeRitter's knees are very technical and pretty to watch, but not the rest of his striking. Allen has really improved his striking over the years. Now, I know a lot of people thought he lost the fight to Chris Curtis. Fair enough. But you look at the striking Allen displayed in comparison to the first time he fought Chris Curtis, it's much better. Now, there are some concerns about his chin. Fair enough. But Allen has incorporated much better elbows in close range. He's even really good at those step-in elbows. You saw it when he was in Orthodox. Stepped in and then fired off an up elbow. Or the slashing elbow. Even arcs it kind of like a rainbow. Oh, like this. And you saw, like, that's really good Muay Thai elbows he has. Not to mention, overall, pretty good boxing. He has seemingly polished up his striking a lot. More specifically, you see in the Marvin Vettori fight, where that fight was mostly contested on the feet. Brendan Allen showed really good kicks to the body, really good punching combinations, always ending with 3 punches. Is, like jab, cross, hook, or something like that. He's shown much better striking combinations, much better fluid motions. Like when he now throws his jab, cross, hook, it looks all fluid, boom, 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 instead of like 1, 2, 3. There's not that awkward pause that you see some grapplers who start to develop their striking at. No, Brendan Allen's is pretty fluid. Even sometimes he ends with a kick to the body or leg. Hey, it's very good textbook striking. Now, Allen's best attributes are for sure his ground game, specifically his back take. Hey, as Brendan Allen is a very mean backpack, is essentially the best word to use for his grappling. And not to mention, his rear naked choke is deadly. He has submitted plenty of black belts with it. Looking at the names he submitted, right? Paul Craig, Andre Muniz, Kevin Holland, like I said, say what you want. He is a Travis Lutter black belt. That does mean something. And it just shows like how good Brendan Allen overall is on the ground. Even against arguably better fighters, he's shown at times that he can be the better grappler of the two. I like specifically you watch that Fluffy Hernandez fight. In the first round, Allen was able to reverse positions, got top position, and was able to deliver some thudding ground and pound to Fluffy. That brings me up to my next thing about Allen. Besides his submissions, which are very good, more specifically his rear naked choke, as he can even get it without establishing hooks like he did with Sam Alvey, his ground and pound is thudding. He's very good at creating space and then falling down with the elbow, and then you can hear the audible just like, it kind of sounds like that. You can hear it elbow to skull. If there's one flack I would say about Brendan Allen, I feel like he's much more of a one-round fighter. Now, he has fights where he wins and finishes fights in the 3rd round. But lately, especially in his last 3 fights, I would argue he's much better in the 1st round than he is in the 3rd round. For example, he won the 1st round against Nasruddin Imavov when he took him down and kept him down for the entirety of the 1st round. And then from that point on, Brendan Allen wasn't able to get his takedowns in. His striking was looking a little sloppier than Imavov, and overall just didn't seem like he had much left in the tank. Then you look at Fluffy, and I know I'm a huge fan of Fluffy, and he's a cardio machine. I understand this. But Brendan Allen was winning that 1st round and was able to reverse positions, got much better striking moments. He landed a head kick flush to the face on Hernandez. But then as, the fight went on, Brendan Allen started to get tired. He started giving up positions. He was starting to get held against the fence. And just not looking as good. Or not going on that hot streak that he was in the 1st round. And then most recently, Marvin Vettori. Now, I know 30-27, Marvin Vettori. But in that 1st round was when he was looking spectacular. Broke Vettori's nose, took his back, nearly got the rear naked choke. Now, I know he had gotten reverse position. I know Vettori was able to reverse positions and got the more dominant position. But still, it kind of shows my point. I feel like Brendan Allen does slow down as the fight goes on. especially in that Chris Curtis fight, where he looked great in the first, was getting his takedowns in, getting dominant positions over Chris Curtis. But then as the fight went on, Chris Curtis started winning, just started winning the fight, landing better striking, hurt Allen more times than Allen hurt him, and was failing his takedowns more and more. Now, there is going to be one thing about this fight that I know is a guarantee. This is going to hit the ground at one point or another. I'm telling you now, if Brendan Allen and RDR never hit the canvas, I would be shocked. Because if there's one thing about Brendan Allen I've noticed is he has a bit of an ego. What I mean is whenever he fights a fellow specialist on the ground, he kind of has, it feels like Allen has a point to prove that he's going to be better than you. You saw it with Paul Craig. You saw it with Andre Muniz. You saw it with, who else did he fight? He was a really good ground specialist. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but at least with those two, and specifically, Muniz and Paul Craig, two very dangerous submission artists in their own right, it felt like Allen had more or less that's it. Fluffy Hernandez. That's it. It just feels like Allen feels like he has a point to prove, like, oh, you're really good on the ground? Well, I'm going to show you I'm a level above you. And usually it works out great for him. He submitted Andre Muniz and Paul Craig. But then sometimes it kind of leads him to disaster, like with Fluffy, as all that grueling grappling eventually just wore down Allen, and Fluffy was able to pick it up late and win the last 2 rounds. So with that being said, I do think Brendan Allen's ego will have something to play in this fight, and I do believe he's either going to A, attempt to take down De Ridder, or 2, happily go into the guard of Reinier De Ridder. Now, how these two meet in the middle will be very interesting, as while this is on the feet, I expect Brendan Allen to be the better striker. I mean, that kind of says a lot for almost all of De Ridder's opponents, like Robert Whitaker. And I think Brendan Allen is going to be able to touch up De Ridder a lot on the feet, land really good kicks, really good punching combinations. Shoot, I can see him hurting De Ridder as well with that same jab cross that Whitaker landed on De Ridder as well. At the same time, though, I see De Ridder landing some vicious knees to the body, and I don't think Brendan Allen is going to make De Ridder pay as badly as Robert Whitaker did. Because if you notice with De Ridder, is that while he leaps in with his knees, yes, you do want to put your hands down to help gain momentum for the knee. But the trick is you kind of grab your opponent's arms to get them out of the way, or so they don't crack you back. De Ridder, while his knees are very technically pretty, he doesn't really like windshield wipe the arms. He kind of just throws his arms up. And if you're just doing that, your chin's up there to get hit. And that's what Whitaker did. He made De Ridder pay by just kind of showing his chin as he's throwing him the knee. I can definitely see Brendan Allen doing something like that. Brendan Allen, like I said, is a really good striker. And then once this hits the ground, that's the intriguing part, because honestly, I just feel like this is going to be exactly like the Fluffy Hernandez fight, where one's on top, one is on top, the other's on bottom. One has their back taken, the other has full mount. They're just going to be jockeying for positions constantly. Or shoot, it's also going to be like Reinier De Ridder's fight with Jerome Mearshart, just a grueling grappling battle for most of the fight, with some pretty fun striking exchanges. I see them both going for takedowns, more so De Ridder than Allen. And as Allen's more so happy to get taken down, as he's usually able to reverse and then take his opponent back. So, and Allen's a really good submission artist, so he doesn't really have any fear of getting taken down, as he's pretty good. Well, he's good off his back, and 2, he's able to get from full guard to transition to the back. Same with De Ridder too. He's able to get out of bad positions as well. Plus, you think of the only person who has beaten De Ridder, and that was Anatoly Malik, who is still currently the one heavyweight, light heavyweight, and middleweight champion. And I love ONE FC, I do, but I don't think their drug testing is not really that good. I think De Ridder was kind of fighting a roid up monster, is what I really do think. But Anatoly Malik, all respect to him, the only 3-weight MMA world champion I know of. Now, granted, he's fighting to get his heavyweight belt back, but that's a discussion for another day. What I'm trying to say is, you look at the only person to beat De Ridder was just a physical monster. Allen's not that, never going to be that at middleweight. Nor do I see him that ever in his career. So I don't think Allen's going to be able to hold down De Ridder as De Ritter's going to be bigger of the two, and he's just as good as a grappler as Allen. So I do see him being able to get his own positions in and, excuse me, and being able to reverse position and get to dominant position. Odds-wise for the fight, De Ritter minus 200, Brendan Allen plus 170. Makes sense. For this fight, I got to go with Reinier De Ritter. One, he's just this level of opposition that we've seen Brendan Allen fight before, with Imavov and Fluffy, and he's always just a step behind. Shoot, he also lost to Sean Strickland, who's another top 5 fighter. For this one, I just think Reinier De Ritter's size is going to be too much of an issue for Brendan Allen. I see De Ritter's awkward style being so confusing for Allen. That's like one of the things you notice about like DDP and De Ritter's. Like their fighting style is so awkward, and at first glance, you don't really think it's much of a threat. And then you're in a bad position. You're like, oh shit, what was I thinking? Or sorry, why did I underestimate him? Is what my mind is really leaning towards. And while I think both are pretty high-level grapplers, I think the size advantage that De Ritter has, plus the overall experience he has in not only 5-round fights, but in championship-level fights, is really going to pull in. I see him hurting Brendan Allen a lot to the body. And I really think those knees to the body are going to be a huge weapon for De Ritter as, like I said, I think Brendan Allen fades in fights. And once he starts getting those knees to the body, they're going to sap his gas tank even more, especially if they end up in the clinch and that giant Dutchman just is draped over Allen, just putting his weight over him while Allen is on the fence and just taking those short little uppercuts and little knees to the body. So all that being said, I'm going to go with Reinier De Ritter, and I think he's going to get a late TKO. Oh, I was thinking of submission, but Brendan Allen is very, very hard to submit. In fact, I don't even think he has a submission loss in his whole career. Now, you can fact check me. I might be wrong, but I know Brendan Allen's never been submitted before, or an ad that I'm pretty confident on. So I think Reinier De Ritter is going to be getting the TKO in this fight. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of this matchup. If you like the video, comment and subscribe. What do you think is going to happen in this fight? How likely do you think De Ritter is going to win? Do you think Brendan Allen can get the upset? And most importantly, for the winner of this fight, what do you think will happen after they win? Do you think they'll get a title shot, or do you think Imavov should still get the title shot no matter who wins this fight? But with that being said, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Take care.